Todd, if you want to go to the next slide. Let's start with our share out circle. So what is one thing you have been grateful for in the last 24 hours? So as you think about gratitude and just things that you've been grateful for, I'll give you a few seconds to do that. And then we're just going to do, I believe, a waterfall. Is that right? I think so.
I
I don't know.
think because we're a small group, we can share out
Oh,
around the room.
perfect.
So, something we're grateful for in the last 24 hours. I can start and then I will call other folks.
Perfect.
I am grateful for collaboration and partnership and the experience of other folks that I work with. Next on my list is Ebony. What are you grateful for?
I'm grateful for my family and my friends.
Awesome. Erica.
The long weekend, and it wasn't a busy one, so lots of family time with that one.
Hillary, what about you?
Mine's also longer than 24 hours, but it was extra time with my family and many opportunities to laugh kind of at my kids and dog.
Awesome. What about Jamie?
I'm kind of joining late. Was the question, what are we grateful for?
Yep. In the last 24 hours, what are you grateful for?
Rest.
Amen. Okay, Nicole, thank you. What about Jamie Popchef?
That's who went, I think.
Yeah, Pop Chef
Jamie Wright.
went. So
Oh, sorry, Jamie Wright. Yes.
yeah, so we'll just switcheroo. That happens to us sometimes. I was grateful beyond 24 hours. We were in Brown County and there was no Wi-Fi. So everyone was off their phones. And that was awesome.
Awesome. Chris just joined us, but Chris Walker Guess, what is something you've been grateful for in the last 24 hours? We'll come back. Lindsay, what about you?
I am grateful for my best friend who I got to see over the long weekend, and we've been friends since elementary school. So I'm just grateful that we still have that connection.
Awesome. Matt, what about you?
I would say that I'm grateful for the folks that bring a calming presence into my life or help sustain it. Not the two dogs in the background. They are not being calm right now. So
awesome. Thanks, Matt. Next on my list is Nicole said she can't chat. Penny, what are you grateful for?
I am grateful for a strong core values and prayer.
Great. Thanks, Penny. Dr. Reinhardt, what about you?
I am definitely grateful for my health, especially in times that we're in right now. I have made it through all of the sickness that has been around me, and knock on wood, haven't gotten sick yet. So very grateful for my health.
Awesome. Thank you, Miss Matthews.
Tara took mine. I am grateful for my health, but I will add I'm also grateful for Netflix when I want to just binge watch nothing mindless television.
I hear you. That's most of my evenings. Bigger staff, what about you? We're talking about one thing we've been grateful for in the last 24 hours.
So I just flew back safely from Phoenix, where I watched my kids play soccer, enjoyed warm weather, and I saw an aunt and cousin that I've not seen in 30 years. So it was awesome.
Oh, that's huge. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing. I think I've got everyone. Chris Walker Guest, are you there yet?
I am here. I am just having a hard time hearing.
Sure.
But can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can, or I can.
Okay, great. I am grateful for my family. Um, definitely I'm grateful for my family. My as a matter of fact, I am meeting on my phone because I just dropped my youngest off for his senior retreat, and that is the last of the Mohicans. And so my world is about to change, you know. So I'm grateful. I'm a little teary-eyed though, you know. So yeah,
Yep.
little rascals, all
Mixed
grown up.
emotions. Yeah, thank you for sharing, Chris. So our next activity, I think I've caught everyone, is so how was your weekend? We had a long weekend, which was much deserved and much needed. So we've got a couple of pictures here to indicate how our weekend was. We've got the dog with like what's happening. We've got Wakanda going on there with taking on the world. Then we've got the bottom left sleeping, and then we've got the bottom right, which is technology, just enjoying ourselves. We're going to do a waterfall. So just in the chat, 1, 2, 3, or 4, just give us a 1, 2, 3, or 4 about how your weekend was. Whenever you're ready, go ahead. Awesome. Thank you for sharing. I certainly slept, but I cannot claim that I did not binge watch a few things. So thanks for sharing. On to our objectives for this evening.
That might be me. Is that right?
Sure. Yep.
Okay, so we are going to look at understanding how to optimize and maintain good mental health, understand mental disorders and their treatments, decrease our stigmas associated with mental health, and increase health-seeking efficacy. So those will be kind of our big 4 tonight, and we'll continue doing that work as we move through the next few months.
Okay, so really quickly, the work that we're using tonight is from Justin Bariso and Adam Sains, and they have both written books about emotional intelligence. So I've added there, you can take a picture of this slide or we'll send it to you or whatever, their websites and also the books that they have written about this subject in case you want to know sort of where our sources come from and more information about it.
Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you guys. If I haven't met you already, my name's Shayla. And one thing I wanted to say, I was busy, but one thing I want to say I'm grateful for this year is having like really good people in my corner. So I'm very grateful for that. I want to talk to you about the do-over rule. So I found this nice quote on Google. Rewinding time is not possible, but do-overs are. Sometimes we get another chance to do something right the second time that we got right the first time. And for me, I thought that was beautiful because how many times have we done something crazy or done something that we thought like, oh, I wish I could just take that back and get the time back. Like I know better, I should have done better, you know, and after it happens, you feel all these emotions and it sometimes can overcrowd you. But you also have to think like in a lot of instances, there are times when we can kind of repair what was done. And I have some steps for us that we can just always keep in the back of our mind. So for one, always take a few minutes to think about how you wish you handled the situation. Just reflect. There's nothing wrong with that, being aware of how you handle things and your feelings and you know how you can move forward. Don't get swallowed up in self-pity, which I know can be difficult at times when you're facing some really hard circumstances, but don't get swallowed up. Spend less time trying to justify previous actions. It happened. Whatever happened, happened. All right? Reestablish dignity for those who have been hurt, and that includes yourself. So there have been times when you've done something and you've beaten yourself up for it. You gotta apologize to yourself for that sometimes. If something happens at work, you know, a teacher, a coworker says something to you and you're like, you know what? And you felt bad a little bit later around lunchtime, it's okay to go back to that teacher and say, I'm sorry for that. I want to apologize. That wasn't in my character. And learn the lesson and move forward with wisdom. Because sometimes stuff is in our character. Sometimes we haven't learned to get it out of our character. So after something happened that you wish that you could just do over, for me, that's making sure I put gas in my car and not going anywhere on E, because that is like a habit that I do. I have to learn the lesson. Like, I'm finally someone who fills up on a half a tank. It took me getting stopped on 10th Street and all the students waving to me. It took that to happen for me to learn to keep some gas in my car, but I learned the lesson and I moved forward with wisdom, and that's what we can always do with that do-over rule.
Okay, I have to run out of gas before, so I can relate to what Shayla just talked about. So another hallmark of a high EQ or healthy emotional intelligence is resilience. I don't have to tell you guys about resilience because we're all resilient people. We're still here. Like Dr. Reinhardt said, most of us have been sick. Most of us, I'm not going to say most of us, but some of us probably have had COVID or family members or been touched by it some way. And there's a lot of sort of words on this slide, but what I really want to leave you with is just in that left-hand corner on the bottom, right? Quick 3 things you should do when something happens and you feel overwhelmed and it is just a lot to take in. I want you to take a break. It is okay to rest. It's okay to put some time between yourself and whatever else needs to happen. Yesterday when is today just Tuesday or Wednesday? Today's Tuesday. Yesterday when we had that extra day for the weekend, there were some people who were reaching out to me for different things, but I was on a day off. I promised myself that I was going to not get into a lot of busy things, right? So it killed me, but I had to just not respond. And today when I got up, I said, hey, got your message yesterday. I'll call you today, right? Now it made for a hectic today, but yesterday I got to take a break. So take a break. And then, could we go back? I guess someone's telling me my time is up. Okay, then acknowledge your feelings. It's like the Oscars. Take a break, then acknowledge your feelings. Okay, this is what I do. Penny, how are you feeling? I'm pissed off. Okay, what do you need to do about that? Just take some breaths, calm down, right? This is what I say to myself. Acknowledge how you feel, but act on what you know. What I know is I can move on. What I know is I have a core faith. What I know is this person is not evil, right? So acknowledge how you feel, but act on what you know. And then focus on what you can control. Control is a myth anyway, right? We really can't control a whole lot of nothing, but we can at least influence some things based on how you behave. So 3 things. This is the rule of resilience. High EQ. Take a break. Acknowledge your feelings. Focus on what you can control.
All right, that was a wonderful segue into the next rule, and that's the rule of setting boundaries. So Penny, I like what you said about you had your off day, and so you turned your phone off. You didn't respond to any text messages, because that is what our next rule is focusing on. So the first step in building emotional intelligence is cultivating one's self-awareness, which is the knowledge and understanding of your own emotional behavior. This is important because you have to acknowledge your own feelings and emotions in order to set healthy boundaries to protect yourself. So everyone needs boundaries. And you kind of give people your boundaries on how they treat you based on what you accept from them. So I just had something that jumped out to me when I was reading about this aspect of EQ was the words in white, the text in white that says, everyone has a different emotional makeup. To determine the need for boundaries, ask yourself these 3 questions. After a day or week in which I feel especially drained, what contributed to that feeling? Whom did I spend time with, and what did I do? How did I do it? And then what can I do differently? And I just kind of buttoned this slide up with a quote from Brené Brown that says, daring to set boundaries is about having the courage to love ourselves even when we risk disappointing others. So if you've set a boundary where you're not going to do something, you're not going to respond to a text message or an email, like keep that boundary, because when you don't, you're teaching others that, hey, my boundaries are negotiable, and you don't want your boundaries to be negotiable.
All right, as we are sort of nearing the halfway point, exploring and reflecting on these different rules of emotional intelligence, we've probably been thinking to ourselves, I'm really good at this. I really do a great job of this, and considering other rules that maybe we struggle with that or we're inconsistent. And that brings us to the rule of strengths and weaknesses. It is a fact that nearly all of us have strengths and weaknesses. And as we reflect on that going forward with what we've been talking about with our emotional intelligence rules, let's just take those thoughts and let's take the idea of everybody having strengths and weaknesses, and let's think about Mark and Jen here. We've got two leaders. Mark leads a team of 30. Mark gets results. He likes to challenge his team to do more than they think they are capable of, and he often inspires them to do so. He thinks and moves fast. He's always quick to run an experiment, try things out, and adjust on the fly. On the other hand, we have Jen. Jen also leads a large team, and Jen also gets results. People feel that she gets them, understands them. She has really excellent behavior or relation building skills, which leads to a low amount of turnover. She's analytical in nature, and that allows her to get to the root causes of problems and find effective solutions. Sometimes Jen does avoid those tough conversations, and sometimes she avoids trying new things for a fear of failure. So as we think about those two leaders, both are successful and effective in what they have done. Who is it that you would rather work for? So would you rather work for Mark and Jen? So just think of a name and hold that in your head or your mind. Okay, I don't need an answer. I want you to think about that. And then I want you to follow that same question up. And I would like you to imagine and think, who makes you better in your capacity or in your role? Is that the same person? Is it just because, well, is that the same person? That's really a question that you could benefit from reflecting on. And that sort of leans into the rule of strengths and weaknesses. It's somebody that compliments you or does things differently, might have the capacity to mitigate your weaknesses and improve you in areas that you didn't think were possible. And that leaves us with that quote that strengths and weaknesses are often different facets of the same quality, like two sides of the coin. So you may see someone that is slow to accomplish something. They might be considered to be patient. Someone that seems laid back and sort of aloof, they might just be a calming presence. Someone that is meticulous in planning, they might be able to just work through a task and leave very little to chance. So when it's a matter of perspective and how we see the strengths and the weaknesses that we think we possess, and how we perceive the strengths and weaknesses of others, because you cannot discard a weakness without eliminating a strength. So in this law, what we're encouraged to remember when it comes to laws and strengths and weaknesses, find a partner that can help you achieve balance, that makes you better. Build a process or a system around you that allows you to leverage your strengths and the strengths of those around you while mitigating the weaknesses, and then continually reflect and work towards improvement.
Hey, Matt, I'm really curious if you were thinking about your boss as you were writing those, because it makes me so nervous. Maybe
I'm
not.
always thinking about everybody.
Yeah.
How we leverage strengths and weaknesses.
Well, thank you. That helped me as a leader for sure. All right, so next we get to talk about the rule of changing your glasses. And of course, I picked this one because of my favorite person, Dr. Ross Greene, and his idea of lenses. This is just a little bit different. So as we think about this one, there's a couple of things that I want you to consider. Number one is very similar to our positive reactions to negative reactions. Scientist Barbara Fredrickson looked at emotions. So we need to have 3 positive emotions for every negative one, which I think is really important. Sometimes we have such negative self-talk that we forget we need to combine that with the positive self-talk as well. So just really important for us to remember that 3 to 1. And then thinking about our negativity bias, that is when, and this may come in waves for you, seasons, whatever you want to talk about, but it's really important that we notice it and we can talk to someone about it. If we're constantly thinking of the frustrations we're experiencing and how bad it is and why has this happened to me, that's when you really want to reach out, and we need to change our glasses, get a different prescription, because right now it's too fuzzy. We can't see what truly is in front of us, the beauty that is in front of us. So that's really what we're talking about when we think about changing our glasses. The forgiveness piece is one of the components that can help you to change your glasses. There was a study, the Stanford Forgiveness Project, and of the group that they studied, 70% reported a decrease in their feeling of hurt when they were able to forgive. 13% experienced a reduced anger, and 27% experienced fewer physical complaints. So we know, and we talk about this all the time with our Be Wayne Well, how interconnected our physical health is to our social, emotional, and behavioral wellness. And so we really want to make sure that we're taking care of all of that. And of course, one of my other favorite people is Brene Brown. And so we're going to watch a quick video about joy and gratitude, which is really interesting. And she does say in here, it's not joy that makes us grateful, but gratitude that makes us joyful. And that's just such a shift. Sorry, Chad, go ahead.
Sorry, I got trigger happy. We good? Sorry.
Yep, we're good. Thank you.
Great. Yeah.
I think the relationship between joy and gratitude was one of the most important things I found in the research. I wasn't expecting it, but what I found, 12 years of research, 11,000 pieces of data. I did not interview in all that time a person who would describe themselves as joyful or describe their lives as joyous who did not actively practice gratitude. And for me, it was very counterintuitive because I kind of went into the research thinking that the relationship between joy and gratitude was, if you're joyful, then you should be grateful. But it wasn't that way at all. It was really that practicing gratitude invites joy into our lives. And when I say practice, I think this is the part that really changed my life. It changed my family and the way we live every day. When I say practice gratitude, I don't mean kind of like the attitude of gratitude or feeling grateful. I mean practicing gratitude. These folks shared in common a tangible gratitude practice. They either kept gratitude journals. Some of them did interesting things like at 1, 2, 3, 4, like at 12:34 every day, they said something out loud that they were grateful for. They, one of the things that we do, like we say grace at dinner. And so now after grace, we go around and everyone in my family says something they're grateful for. I mean, and what's interesting is when we first started, I have a first grade son, Charlie, and 8th grade daughter, Ellen. And at first I thought, and we've been doing it for a couple of years now, like they're gonna like, oh God, Mom. And there was a little like, this is, are you experimenting on us? There was a little bit of that. But now what's interesting, even after we did it for like a couple of weeks, that on those crazy busy nights where we're trying to like get to soccer and piano and homework, and Steve and I are just like, we say a quick prayer and we start eating, and my kids are like, whoa, what are you grateful for? And it's been extraordinary because not only absolutely does it invite more joy into our house, it also is such a soulful window into what's going on in my kids' lives. So there are some days when my 8th grader will be like, I'm joyful that there's a huge thick wall between my room and my brother's room, something just very, honest. But there are other days she'll say, she had a friend whose mother recently died. And she said, for a month, she would say, I'm just so grateful that y'all are healthy right now. And so not only did it make us all more aware of what we had and more willing to slow down and really be thankful for the joyful moments we had, but it let me know where she was emotionally in her life. And my son is always, I'm grateful for bugs, I'm grateful for frogs, but sometimes he'll say, I'm grateful that you picked me up early, or, I'm grateful that I finally understand adjectives, So there's a great quote that says, it's not joy that makes us grateful, it's gratitude that makes us joyful. And it's by a Jesuit priest. And I guess I was just amazed to find that bubble up so strongly in the research. It's life-changing.
So one last resource is the Action of Happiness, or Action for Happiness. If you look up, we're going to send these slides to you, but it's actionforhappiness.org. And they actually have a daily action. And the funny thing is, today is give sincere compliments to people you talked to today. And so when I think about just how grateful, again, we are for each other as a team, and really our Wayne family, I really enjoy getting to work there because of the compliments that really truly brighten my day. And so I think that's something that, it's a great use. You can use it in your classroom, you can use it in your school building, but just a way for us to create a more happier world.
That was such a perfect segue, Dr. Reinhardt, because my rule is the rule of recognition. And so Dr. Reinhardt talked about the negativity bias. And so it's really easy to see those negative things and focus on the negative. So what the rule of recognition is recognizing the positives in someone else. And so making your default setting to focusing on what a person has done right and make a point to commend that person. As we mentioned earlier, it's really easy to go to that negative with ourselves and with others. So the rule of recognition is really about positivity. So it blends two things. It blends sincerity. So we want to give feedback that is genuine. We want to make sure we're really noticing that positive piece, and adding in a specificity to that. So making sure that we are naming the specific thing that we are appreciative for, or the positive thing that we're noticing. And when we do both of those things, it's going to build trust with our peers, with our students, whomever you're directing this feedback to. It's going to reinforce whatever positive behavior you're seeing, and it's likely to your students, or whoever is receiving it, is more likely to receive constructive feedback when you are going to point out some of those weaknesses. So what a perfect way to bring that positivity to someone else.
Okay, so next we have the rule of acquired taste. And I think that this is a funny one because it seems sort of like a backward logic. This tastes awful, or I don't like that. Maybe if I try it again, it will get better. But the reality is it will. The more exposure we have to something, the more familiar we become. It can, if it was aversive before, it can land in the neutral territory, or it can even come to the I like it territory. Some ways to do that would be, or to maximize this in terms of your emotional intelligence, is to mind the company you keep. You definitely want to spend time with those who have the habits and the traits and qualities that you admire. And my dad always used to say, you become whoever, now I can't think of how he said it. Look, he said it to me all the time, but beware of who you hang around with. You become the company that you keep. And I guess that this is what he was talking about. But if you can't actually be around the things and people that you admire, you can read about them, watch videos, observe and study. Just immerse yourself around the things that you want to become. The other side of that, I think what my dad was getting to, is you do become what you're around. So if it's not so positive, then you will start to take on those traits as well. Think about that sometimes there's some stigma associated with some things, even something as simple as, do you go to McDonald's or do you go to Panera? And in thinking about that, people sometimes lie about their preferences and their acquired tastes. And so we have to think what's associated with that and why would we do that? And just be mindful of what we're presenting to the world, what values that we're trying to project, and be mindful of who we're around because we become it.
Awesome. Thank you, Jamie. So this is me. The atomium rule, and we were all kind of going back and forth. I love Ebony's cat in the screen, by the way. The atomium actually is, it was built in 1958 in Brussels, Belgium, for the World's Fair. It was not intended to last past the World's Fair. But it has been renovated most recently 2004 to 2006. And it's now a cultural and arts hub in Europe. It took 18 months to design, 18 months to build. The overall summary of the atomium rule is that great work cannot be rushed. But also we say that great work cannot be rushed, but it does not excuse laziness. And in the middle there, we live in a world of instant gratification, and that may cause us to possibly move faster than we should or want to. So what we should do when we're planning projects, presentations, activities, schedule sufficient time for the project, break it down into manageable parts, start early so we can continue building, improving, and tweaking our work. For me, when I think of the atomium rule, I think about how different people learn. And that's super important when I think about that, because different people need processing time. Some people need to have time to research. And we often have to assess in our world of work, like which initiatives have the highest leverage, like the biggest bang for our buck, honestly. So it's okay to slow down and say, what is the biggest impact? And I will share personally, my husband and I often talk at home when things get chaotic and we're processing things, we say low and slow, like pull it back. And it's very silly. It came from us being at Universal Harry Potter World. We felt rushed getting what to eat. And we ended up with this big turkey leg, right? Which neither of us liked. And so after that, it was low and slow. So real life experience, real world. And so that's super important. So emotional intelligence means that we make good decisions when we are under stress. So sometimes our schedule goes off the rails. And I say sometimes because most every day for me, my schedule goes off the rails, which I'm sure that's for most of you as well. And we have three options. The first one is to rush to the job and produce inferior work. Which if we ship out inferior work, it could possibly impact our reputation, right? And we have to be mindful of that. Like we have pressure around us saying, get the work out, do it. but we also are representing the best of ourselves. And so we have to understand that's one option to push it, risk our reputation. Option 2 is invest more resources to help get the job done on time. People who are really hard workers often gravitate towards this. They will say, we got to get it done. Who can I pull in? Make this happen, make it happen fast. That's a decent option, but I'm going to share something that's very uncomfortable. And that is the third option is adjust the schedule. This is the best option if we consider our mental health. It also relieves stress. And by stress, I mean negative stress, because all stress is not bad. But it allows us to take a step back and learn from the work that's been completed. So we've done some things. We can evaluate what's going well, what's not going well, where do we need to work. So I encourage everyone, if the job goes off the rails, let's take a step back, adjust the schedule. And it may include asking some people for forgiveness, for extensions, but the impetus is we want to do our best work and be the best of ourselves. And that's super important. I shared this earlier on. This has been resonating with me a lot since I researched that this weekend. Ultimately, the atomium was not built in a day, and your best work will not be built in a day either. So this is a gorgeous, amazing sculpture, which took a couple of years, like 2.5 years to build. And it was not meant to last, but it has, and now is a cultural and arts hub. So take time to do your best work.
Okay, the rule of decision making. So I love this. I'm not making any more bad decisions. Oh, look, a bad decision. Just we have the best of goals in mind, but sometimes bad habits are hard to break, right? So the rule of decision making and thinking about how that relates to emotional intelligence is you have to know your own patterns and then some universal patterns. So here are some universal patterns of when it might not be a great time to make a decision. And like I always tell my children when they are getting ready to ask me for something or to go somewhere or to have a special privilege, I'm like, timing is everything, kid. Do I seem like now's the best time if I'm maybe up to my elbows in dishes and animals are running around and it's 9 o'clock at night? Probably not. So think about the best timing. And so in contrast, you can think about, when do you make great decisions? When does your best decision making occur? So for me personally, it would be after I have maybe tried to dive into the Atonium rule and have I can't say it, Atomium rule. There we go.
You got it. That's it.
Okay, thank you. See, I had to slow down. And just like decision making, if I can slow down and really give myself time to think and weigh out the options, but not go too far into overthinking, then I can make a decision that I feel great about. And whatever happens, I'm going to be able to be reflective, but know that I've done the best that I can in the moment. So everyone has different parameters for what that needs to be, but knowing yourself and knowing some global patterns will help you apply the rule of decision making.
All right. So the last one I feel is a biggie. It's a challenge that I sometimes face in my own life. But the last rule is no laptops, no cell phones. So technology has been absolutely amazing, especially since we've been in the midst of a pandemic. We've been able to move forward with our work and be efficient at our jobs. We've been able to meet remotely and virtually. We have been able to not only hear the voices of our loved ones, but see them on Zoom calls and Google Meets. And that's all great, but I feel like we have gotten so pulled in that we often neglect the people that we're in the same room with, that we're face to face with. Furthermore, we can keep up with old acquaintances on social media, Facebook and Instagram and all of those things. But when I think about how often we are in tune with what's going on our phones and our laptops, I just think about times when I may have been, I'm speaking from personal experience, times when I may have been in a meeting and I've completely checked out because I'm looking at my phone and scrolling social media, and someone maybe is going on a tangent, or maybe not, and I've checked out and they've given directions, and next thing you know, people are maybe silent or working, or possibly supposed to respond to a question, and I have no clue what's going on because I've checked out and I'm focused on what's going on my phone. I also think about those times, and this one is really personal for me. Something that I've really been trying to be conscious about is when my own children come into my room and they talk to me, and I've even asked them, "Hey, how was school today?" But because I was already on my phone when they came in the room, I'm still, "So, how was school today?" And I don't know with the background if you can see my phone here in front of my face, but I've had to say to myself, "Erica, put the phone down." You know, as educators, we think about those times when we're teaching lessons and we've put our all into creating our lessons. And if a student is on their computer, on a website that we haven't assigned them to, or if they are on their phone, then we feel neglected, we feel disrespected, but we, especially when it comes to kids, don't always return that same respect. So Jamie, when you spoke earlier and you said something that you were grateful for in the last 24 hours, the fact that you said that your family was in a place with no Wi-Fi, I was like, yes, because I've seen situations here with my own kids where, you know, or my family where we're texting each other and we're in the same room, you know, and everyone is looking down. And it's just quite odd, but that's just how, you know, addicted we are to technology and phones and laptops. So if you take a look at the screen, it says we humans have only one language processor. If that language processor is engaged, you're distracted. And worse yet, you distract all of the people around you. Studies have shown that. Okay. So technology is meant to further connect us, but have we considered how it can disconnect us as well? How good of a companion or a listener are we being, you know, if we're in tune with our phones and our laptops? True listening and collaboration requires complete attention. And if you're speaking with another person, then they thought you were important enough to give their time and their effort and their attention. But if you are checked out and you're on your phone when someone is speaking to you, then you're actually valuing the person that you're communicating with virtually more than you are the person that you're in the same place with. So I think that is super important for us to follow the no laptops and cell phone rules. And Todd, if you would play that video, if you would take a look, there's some sound, but it's not necessarily a ton of talking going on there. How does this video resonate with you? Do you feel convicted in any way when you take a look at this?
Stuck under his car. And like, who knows how long he was driving. I saw him pull out of the parking lot and turn right, and the box was still stuck under his car. So who knows how long he was driving with that box under his car. I like bet he got home, he pulled into his driveway.
Out in the sky. I'm not. Wow. Like, if you, it's not.
I don't think it's real. I don't think it's
maybe
real.
I see the lineup for cars. It's getting wasted. The Empire State Building is like really close to it, so it's a good.
Hey, get up, are you serious? I do this with what was in my hands.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Kevin. Happy birthday to you. Yeah!
So I've actually been in some of those situations. So I've actually been in some of those situations, like in that video when someone is pouring their heart out and the circle is sitting there on their phones, and it's so awkward. If it's not me, in one situation I found it hilarious, but I mean, just think about how you're making the person feel who's sharing and talking. If anyone wants to unmute and share your thoughts on the video or anything about the no laptops, no cell phones rule, what are your thoughts?
Hey, Erica. This is Chris. And one of the things that came to my mind was the fact that my husband and I, we put a rule in place in our house that when we're having family time, there's no technology. So if we're having dinner or if we go out to dinner, there's just simply no technology. And at first, the kids gave us a lot of pushback, but then it just became a time that they appreciated. They appreciate it. So we appreciate that time. And we do more laughing and actually like talking about each other and joning on each other and just being together during that time. So it's stress free. So that became a time that we all understood and we appreciate. So we put the technology down. But this Christmas season, I had to rethink some of the words that I had said and some of the things that I had been doing because my mom asked me to get her a couple of boxes of Christmas cards and some cards. And I said to her, mainly because of me having a busy schedule, I said, Mom, just text your Merry Christmas messages to your friends. And so my mom said, text? What happened to old-fashioned letters and Christmas cards? And I had to think about the fact that I was putting technology ahead of that human touch again. And so I just broke down. I went and got her some boxes of cards and some stamps, and I watched her address each and every one of these envelopes. And I thought to myself, that's the human touch. You know, her friends will appreciate the fact that she did this for them. You know, just like I appreciate the fact that the kids put their cell phones away when we're together. And so you don't think about like something like that. I mean, how many times do you really get Christmas cards or letters in the mail? Who writes letters anymore? That's that human touch. You're right. You know, and so mom had to bring me back. It took an 80-year-old woman, you know, to say, let's get rid of this technology. I need to send my cards, you know. So as I was listening to you, that came back to mind and I was like, so true. So true.
I love it. Absolutely. In my house, and we have kind of come, I'm hearing an echo. I'm not sure why. In my house, we, for a period of time, were doing no technology Thursdays. That was the day of the week that my husband never worked. So no TV, no phones. We played board games, hide, go seek in the dark, whatever the situation was. And my kids really groaned. I mean, I just thought they acted like they were going through withdrawal, I mean, on those days. And then it just became a really fun thing for them. And the same with Christmas cards. I still send them out, but I think about the older people in my family who may have a cell phone, but we still want to check on them. So I make my kids put in calls and send cards and not just that text message, because it just seems so impersonal in comparison.
I think about being in social situations where people are constantly like trying to capture it and how they're going to post about it. And like, I don't hardly post anything because I don't have pictures of the things that I've done because I've been so in the moment with the people that I love and whatever I'm doing that I don't have pictures of those things. So usually my posts are words like I had this really great experience, or maybe someone else shares a picture, and I could probably do a little bit better at capturing some pictures just for down the road. But the amount of time that people put into stopping, enjoying what they're doing, or watching a concert through their phone. Like I've seen people the entire concert stand watching it through their phone, and I just like, I can't even imagine.
Jamie, I hear you. I was at a show this weekend in Broad Ripple and everyone was taking video. I'm like, are you actually watching the show? I mean, and what are you going to do with that video afterwards? Which also makes me feel like old, right? Because I'm like, what are we doing this for? But just enjoy the moment, right? I hear you. That's all I'm saying. I hear you. I get it. So our next slide is we have mental health support and resources because we never know who needs help. Anyone on this call, any friends we meet. Here's the National Suicide Prevention Hotline or Lifeline, Crisis Text Line, Disaster Distress Helpline. BeWayneWell.com has a bunch of resources. Change Direction allows us to see the 5 signs of emotional suffering and the healthy habits of emotional well-being. So that's our goal tonight, is to talk about emotional wellness and how we communicate and all of that. So that's all we have for this evening. Erica or Jamie or anybody from the team, any last thoughts? All right. Well, thank you all for joining us. This has been a great conversation. One of our best, I think, but I would love to, we'll share this out with everyone, and please encourage people to join us for our final session this year, which will be in a little while. We'll send out information. Thank you.